the recording's on, so why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing, and then we'll get into some questions. And
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So I am the founder of wealthygorilla.com. It is a self-development website for anyone looking to achieve success in their life or improve themselves. I started it 3 years ago now, so I started it in April 2014, and the way it kind of came about was I had just recently got into self-development, so I had kind of found this passion for fitness, and that for me that was where it all started, because when I was younger I used to be very underweight. I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'2", but I only weighed 147 pounds when I was 18. So for me, I'd kind of like always had this social anxiety because of, you know, my weight, and because of everybody else. All my friends were hitting the gym and everything, and I was just skinny, and it just didn't feel right. And I basically got into fitness. I started doing bodyweight exercises in my garage, and I put on 21 pounds in like 3 months and started to see results. And it was only a few months after that which I then decided to create Wealthy Gorilla, because after kind of falling in love with fitness, there were just so many other areas that I then started to dive into and research, and that's really where it all started for me. And you know, 3 years down the line, we're now reaching almost 1 million page views a month. We have over 200 contributors, 200 authors who are regularly contributing their advice, their stories, their lessons for people, and it's really just kind of grown from there. And yeah, it's awesome. We just launched the podcast, so we got everything going. So that's a little bit about me and everything that I'm doing at Wealthy Gorilla.
Great. So you started with fitness and self-improvement. Obviously, the title is Wealthy Gorilla, so I'm assuming at some point you shifted to a financial improvement model as well. What is the main focus? Building wealth and living a lifestyle you want, or is it everything? Is it wealth and health and fitness? What kind of things do you focus on over there?
For me, well, it's interesting because the name is Wealthy Gorilla, and when I started it, that was the main focus of the site, right? So I'd share lessons from like the wealthiest people and that kind of thing, but it's really not about that. It's more about you know, self-development, improving yourself, being happy, achieving all your goals within fitness, within life, within your career, all these different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be about your income. For me, my goals are simply to achieve freedom and just live the kind of life that I want to live, and that doesn't necessarily mean having a lot of money. It just means, like I say, I'm moving back to Bali, Indonesia in a couple of weeks. For me, that was like one of my biggest goals, because I went traveling for 7 months or so, and I visited all these places, and I decided that that's just kind of what I want to do. I want to be able to travel to these new places whilst working, you know, whilst running a business, and whilst impacting other people's lives as well. So it's really a big trio there. So for me, those are my goals. I mean, it's not the same for everybody. Everybody has different goals. Some might want to become millionaires. Some might want to just travel every single country in the world. You know, everyone's different. And at Wealthy Gorilla, we kind of accommodate for that. We have people that contribute from all different backgrounds, and so some of their articles might be tailored to other people's interests. But you know, it's all about kind of like a good balance between everything, and just making sure that you're happy with who you are and the way you're living.
Okay, so it's more focused on philosophical wealth, if you would say, than financial wealth.
Yeah.
Like having all the things you really want.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a good question, because I know a lot of people run up against this. How do you figure out exactly what you want so you can go after it then?
You know, that's a great question. Again, like, everybody's different. I think the thing is, you've got to try a lot of new things. For me, I didn't know what I wanted until, I mean, I'm only 22 now, but I still got years ahead. But in school, they kind of try and push you in one direction. They try and say, get your grades up so you can then go to university or college, and then get a job from there. They kind of like herd you in this direction. And for me, I didn't know what I wanted to become. So I kind of got swayed by that, swayed by the way that they were kind of pushing you, and I kind of decided, oh, maybe I should do this, or maybe I should do this. And really, I had always kind of had this passion for business, and I'd been making money online through eBay and through things like that when I was only 12, 13, and made my money that way. And in the end, I just kind of realized that I was spending way more time doing that than I was like studying on homework and things like that. And yeah, I just decided that that was my passion, so that was what I was going to go for. And with the traveling side of things, I went on holiday to Australia for like 3 weeks when I was 19, and I just decided that that was awesome. Like, I wanted to do more of that, and I wanted to see more places. So you kind of like, you just pick up these desires, if you like, from just doing new things. And for anybody who's struggling to find that kind of thing they're passionate about and that thing that they want to go after, you just got to keep experimenting with different ideas and different careers or different whatever it may be until you find the thing that when you find it, right? You know when you find something you love.
No, I think that's a great answer, and I think that leads to the next thing. I think what holds a lot of people back is fear. I think a lot of people realize they got to try new things and get out there, but they stick to that job they don't really like. They stick to the home they don't really like. They don't get out and do the traveling. So any tips for getting past that?
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have fear on doing something that's kind of new and uncomfortable. And when I first went traveling on my own, I had this massive fear. I didn't know what was going on. Yeah, it's a new country. They don't speak the same language. You don't know where you're going. There's so many different fears that people have, but you kind of just have to realize that your desire is greater than that fear, right? So if you want to go traveling around the world, okay, but you're afraid of what might happen, then you're not going to go traveling if you're going to let that fear kind of commandeer your life. So if you really have that desire, then I think you just kind of jump. If you really have that desire to build a business, to go for that dream job, to travel, whatever it may be, you just have to jump. And then once you get into it, it's so much easier, because really the hardest part was like booking the flight, like booking the ticket. And then you get on the plane and you're just like, oh, what have I done here? But as soon as like the first couple of weeks, you settle into it. And then if you go to another country, it's just like, even though it's still new, you're just used to kind of living in that way. You're kind of used to making those kinds of decisions and just pushing yourself. So really, it's like just the first step that people just kind of have to get past. And as soon as you get past that, you just kind of build momentum, and you just start. It's like that driving force, That's really all I would have to say about kind of facing your fears.
No, I think that's fair too. We've actually had a similar lifestyle when I was young. Now, I made the money first. I had a business, and then I had some success, and I said, okay, you're young, what do you do when you have success? I said, well, you do what everyone says they wish they did when they were 80, travel the world, meet new people, try things out. And I experienced a lot of the same things. I remember when I first got to Brazil, I got there at 1:30 in the morning, the first day of Carnival, everything was shut down. Nobody was there, I didn't speak Portuguese, I didn't know what the taxi driver had no idea what the address was I was trying to hand him. But it all worked out. By the next day I was at Carnival, and I met great people, and I was making everything work, and it just kept going from there. And I think that's absolutely true. If you take that first step, the rest of the steps just seem to show up a lot of times. So I think if you can, get out there and do it, you're absolutely right. So one thing I was curious about when you're looking at your website logistically, how do you make things work, like internet connections and staying in contact with your business? And do you set aside time each day to deal with your business? If you say, I'm going to Bali for a month and my business is going to have to handle itself because it's mostly automated, How do you address those kind of things?
Well, I mean, when I'm traveling, it's all, there's no time off. It is like I'm still working around the clock. It's like, it's one of those things where people ask me, like, how can you afford to travel and how can you afford to do all this? And, how can you still work on your business whilst you're traveling? It's really, all it is to me is just the same routine, just in a different place. I mean, obviously there'll be slightly different circumstances depending on where I am and the internet connection and that kind of thing, because in Bali there's a lot of power cuts. So you'll be trying to get some work done and then they'll just shut the lights off for an hour. And but I mean, most of what I do at the moment is focused on growth. It's not necessarily focused on maintaining the income. So I could take a week off and nothing would wouldn't necessarily be different. I'd still be earning the money. So that part of it is automated, but then there's always that case of if I take a week off, then I'm kind of stopping myself from, achieving the next period of growth. And of course, there is always a risk that I could fall back if I take a week off and something changes. Who knows what could happen? But for me, it's like, it's not too much of an issue because this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I love to do. Regardless of where I am or kind of the things that I'm getting up to, I'm still going to have plenty of time to, work on the business because, quite frankly, I can't like go an hour without thinking about it, which is kind of can be a little bit of a downfall sometimes. But yeah, I think for anyone who kind of wants to achieve the digital nomad lifestyle, I think they should be passionate about the business that they're trying to build and everything they do on a daily basis, and kind of not get sidetracked by where you are and like all the luxuries of, villas and parties in Bali and wherever it may be.
So you refer to digital nomad lifestyle, the freedom lifestyle is kind of becoming a thing. We're starting to see some of the bigger marketing people talking about it. Don't have a home, go out and have experiences and live your life. I think James Altucher is kind of getting into that. A few of the bigger names like that. So if I am a business owner, I'm not even a business owner yet out there. What do you think the first step is? How do I get started? If I'm like, everything he's saying is great, this is the kind of lifestyle I want. What's step one? Do I need to figure out what business I want? Do I need to learn online marketing? Do I just pull out a map and say I want to go here and I'll figure it out?
Well, I mean, the best way really is to, like, obviously the way I started is that I found something I was passionate about, right? I found self-development, the area that I was really passionate about, and I just kind of went from there. I just created the blog and started writing about it, and then down the line found ways to kind of monetize that. But it differs for everyone, but the core principle, like I say, is passion, really, because a lot of people want to achieve the digital nomad lifestyle more today than ever before, but they just kind of think like, I'll just try and find a way to build a business and make some money and that'll allow me to travel, right? Their main passion is traveling, and it's not necessarily their business or the way that they're getting their income, which is kind of where a lot of people just fall flat, because if you're not passionate about it, then you're gonna really struggle when kind of you're not seeing the results. Like if you're not seeing the results within the first 3 months, 6 months, that's it for you. You can't justify yourself to put in any more time. Whereas someone who's passionate about it, they're just going to be doing it regardless of whether they're getting paid or not, because they love to do it. So that's the first step. That's number one. And then from there, you can decide how you're going to kind of monetize your passion, which there's so many different ways. I mean, I've met nomads from all over the world. They're doing e-commerce businesses, they're doing blogs, they're freelancing, writing, social media management, all these different areas. And it's such a big community, you know, and it's only growing. So there's so many opportunities to kind of learn about what other people are doing, and if you're interested in that, you can kind of hang out with them more and get to see how they kind of run things. There's certain like membership clubs in places like Bali and that, where they have events and they have hundreds of people from all around the world come to these events, and you can they have like a little hangout spot where you can go every day to do your work and chat and discuss and everything. And some people, they do it, they kind of save up a few $1,000s first, and then they go out and then they try and build the business once they're out there. I've seen that pay off for a lot of people, but it's obviously very risky if you're going out there and you haven't got a clue what you're going to do yet. Yeah, and I actually interviewed someone for the podcast yesterday or the day before. He's a good friend of mine, and he did that. He had a couple of $1,000s, one-way ticket to Thailand, learned from like 10 different mentors, built his first e-commerce business, and then sold it. And he hasn't come back since. He's been to Bali, he's been to Japan, he's been to Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, all over the place.
That's great. So you said there's a pretty strong community around this. If I wanted to find that community, if this is something I think sounds good to me, how do I find that community? How do I get started getting tied in?
It's mostly through Facebook groups nowadays. There's so many different Facebook groups for nomads and for nomads in particular countries as well. There's one that I'm part of, which I think is just called Digital Nomad Lifestyle or something like that. Hundreds of thousands of members. So you can really, you can just hit them up with a post and you'll get plenty of replies if someone's in the same country as you. And the other thing is, like I say, a lot of these places have membership clubs. So the one that I was looking at in Bali was called Dojo Bali, and I got introduced to it through a friend. He's currently there and he's a member. And yeah, I mean, you can do an easy internet search for any of these sorts of things. Just type in digital nomad Bali, Thailand, wherever, and it will just pop up. It should just pop up with everyone who's out there. So it's really not hard to find people in certain countries like Southeast Asia and those kinds of places, because obviously they're very cheap and they're very exotic, and it's a lot different to here in the UK or in the US or wherever. And I've just been in regular cafes, and I've just run into people that are also doing the same thing, running businesses. And I ran into this one guy. We were sitting next to each other, and he just asked me what I was working on. I said, "Oh, I'm just doing this. And he actually knew one of my friends who was over in Spain at the time, and they'd hung out and they'd shot like loads of videos together and done recordings and everything. So, the world is small, man. The world is really small.
Especially these days, it seems that way.
Yeah.
So you started off in fitness and personal development. I think a lot of people, whether they're digital nomads or just business people that have to travel a lot, got some tips for staying healthy and staying in shape when you're all over the world and in and out of hotels and traveling, and what works for you?
Yeah, well, it's tough. It's the first time I went out, I was away for 7 months, and that was like my first real experience of kind of traveling and being on the go a lot. And for me, it was tough because I'm naturally skinny, like I'm naturally an ectomorph. It's quite hard for me to keep on weight and keep putting on weight and putting on muscle. One of the advantages is that I don't get fat, but the big disadvantage was when I was traveling to these places, maybe I didn't have access to a gym, or maybe I didn't have access to pull-up bar or whatever, or a kitchen. One of the big things, especially when you're on a budget, is not having a kitchen in some of these places. So now I'm kind of like preparing a lot better for when I'm going back. I know exactly what I did wrong last time. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm tracking all my calories through an app called MyFitnessPal, which you may have heard about. And it's brilliant to kind of just track all your calorie intake, your macronutrients and everything that you need. And that way I can kind of ensure that I'm not going to lose weight really quickly. I've also ordered, just today actually, ordered some supplements and stuff that I'm going to take over there rather than trying to find stuff out there, which can also be a pain. And the other real thing is, like, if you're serious about staying healthy whilst you're traveling, is just making sure you have a gym or like a workout park or something nearby, because a lot of these places, they have like the calisthenics workout parks, pull-ups, dip bars, all these kinds of things, which is what I normally do. So it's brilliant for that, but it took me quite a while to kind of find them. And there's like certain periods of time where I'd be doing pull-ups off fire escapes, like round the back of 7-Eleven, or there's some pretty interesting methods to staying healthy. But it's really, it comes down to that. It just comes down to kind of like how serious you are about kind of staying fit. A lot of people, when they travel, they like to eat at these places. They like to eat at fast food places, nice restaurants, and stay in really nice hotels that have great room service, but not necessarily any place to kind of prepare your own food. So if you want to stay healthy, you got to just make sure you can prepare your own food, make sure you've got a place to exercise, and make sure you're kind of tracking everything that you're eating, because here in the UK it's really cold most of the time, and when you travel across the world it's completely different, so you're just sweating away everything, and it's hard to adjust to, but yeah.
So basically have a plan and then adjust as needed. Have you ever heard of a TRX?
No, can't say I have.
You should look into it. Yeah, it's basically a body weight strap system, but it hooks into any door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when I used to travel a lot and I was taking better care of myself, I used to use one, and it was really great. Like anywhere there was a door you could close, you could do pretty much any kind of exercise. I mean, it even helps you with inversions and everything else. So
they have a great app too.
Yeah, they have a lot of good things. So there's something for you personally you might want to consider looking into, because it's basically straps and handles. It's about this big.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Yeah, I did look into that actually. I've seen a few people using them away, but yeah, it's as long as you're kind of dedicated to it and you kind of make sure you get time in for your workouts, there's plenty of ways you can exercise. And it's like I don't even have a gym membership here. When I started working out, I didn't even use a gym. I just went to the park, did pull-ups and dips and push-ups and things. So plenty of solutions.
Okay. So I think we're getting close to the end here, but a lot of people are probably gonna have this question. You figured out traveling and the lifestyle when you had a smaller budget. You have a better budget now, I'd imagine. But travel tips, like how do we find good deals? How do we find places that we're going to want to stay? How do we make sure we don't end up at some place in Bali that's going to scare the people we're with and make them all hate us, kind of a thing?
For me, I would always try and find someone that is a local there. And that can be harder to do depending on who you are and kind of your experience with traveling before. But I mean, there's places on Facebook. Again, there's Facebook groups where you can find people that are locals of, in Bali, wherever, and they will save you so much time and so much money. Because the first time I went to Bali, I was spending a lot of money at tourist places, like tourist restaurants. I booked a room which was very expensive and didn't really give me much. Like, it was pitch black. There was a tiny little window. And then I started to meet a few of the locals, and they started to show me the good places. And I moved to a place that it was the exact same price, but it had a swimming pool, it had a garden, it had a restaurant. The room was 3 times the size. Yeah, and it's kind of amazing, because if you just connect with the locals, then they can just show you everything, and they know exactly how people try and con you out your money and get you to spend a little bit more. So that's one of the things which can be hard to do. And the other thing is kind of looking on places like Airbnb is always a good one, but if you're going to stay there for a long time, don't try and do it through Airbnb. Try and do it through the direct site, or if you see what I mean, like through the person directly, because they just whack on a load of fees and you could probably get it cheaper. Little things like that. Number 1 self-development tip. Do one thing every day that makes you scared. Because psychologists say that if you have 2 choices, always choose the one that makes you the most scared, because that is the way that you will grow the most. And I used to be scared of everything when I was younger. Literally everything. Speaking out in groups, trying new things in case I embarrassed myself or messed it up or did whatever. I'd replay like moments in my mind. So I'd replay like conversations that I had with someone, in case that I came across in a way that I wouldn't have wanted to. So many like little things. So I just try and do things that always make me scared. Like the solo traveling, like even the jumping on podcasts and video calls and that kind of thing, because they always used to really just terrify me. And it's just, you can't help it at first, but if you just keep doing it, then you just get used to it. So that would be my tip. Always do things that make you scared. There's obviously a lot of fear there, but you're going to feel so much better at the end of it when you do them. Like, seriously.
Absolutely. I think that's great. Thank you. That's a great way to close this out. And I want to thank you a lot for your time.
Yeah.
I think you gave a lot of good information. I think everyone here probably got a lot out of it, which is great.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. You have something you want us to promote right now? You have something going on? Just have people go to your website or something in particular?
Yeah, you can check out wealthygorilla.com, which is obviously where a lot of our articles are. And we also have three free ebooks that you can download. And you should be able to see there's a little subscribe button on the right hand side of the homepage. So you can just click on that, subscribe, get the free ebooks downloaded, and they should get you started. I mean, there's one on fear, there's one on feeling proud and amazing and strong, and there's all kinds of things. So go check out the homepage and take it from there.
Perfect.
Thanks for talking with us today.
Sorry?
So thanks for talking with us today.
No problem at all.
Thank you very much.